Hey mom, how's it going?
Lindsay, I'm having a great start to the week. I hope you are too. I will tell you, my weekend was filled with wedding planning, and I have a feeling my weekends from now until June are going to be filled with wedding planning. What do you think?
I would agree with you. My weekend was also very filled with wedding planning and we're getting down to like crunch time of like now all like beauty related things happen. So I got a facial this weekend. I got my nails done this weekend. I made my fiance go get a pedicure with me this weekend, which I've told like everybody about, and he absolutely hates that I am telling everyone that he got a pedicure. So it was a fun weekend of
Yeah, so let's
wedding
put it on a
planning and
podcast. What the
prepping it.
heck, I love it. I will tell you that he was here and we tried to get him to do a pedicure like a couple years ago and he was like absolutely not. I love that he's team pedicure now. Good for
Yep.
Patrick. I love it.
Team pedicure. Team pedicure. Well, I am super pumped. Speaking of family and weddings and all of those fun things, I have a good friend, someone who's become a good friend over the years, Jackson Rollo, on today. Jackson, one thing I just really, really admire about you and your agency and would love to chat about today is how you guys are super, super intentional about you're a family agency, but you have an incredible culture and you guys always, that's really the fundamentals of what you guys do. So I'm super pumped to talk about it. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited. I will say team pedicure all the way. It's 100% worth it. We were arguing about this on an incentive trip the other day with some of our producers, and I like the ones a lot more who do the pedicures, I think, now.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
I'm
That's
just team
funny.
like no crusty feet.
Yeah, exactly. No, me too. Yeah, for sure.
We're
That's how
going
it
to
started.
Europe. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to Europe. He's going to be wearing Birkenstocks. I was like, can we just like get a cleanup?
Not.
Like, it's worth it to me. And he was
Well,
like, okay, whatever.
but here's the thing. He can wear socks with Birkenstocks. There's nothing wrong with that either. I'm on both. Yeah, you can do both for sure.
You
100%.
can, but you can't do that when you're like dressed up nice, like to go out
That's
to dinner in
true.
Europe.
That's true. That's
That's like
true.
a wear around the house, like go to the grocery store type of thing, not like a
I think
vacation.
that's
That is
a
true.
highlight. I'm American. I'm an American. I'm an American. I'm pretty that's what's going to happen. What do you think?
Yep.
Yeah.
Man.
So,
No, but thank y'all for having me on for sure.
so Jackson, for any listeners who might not know you as well as we do, give us a background of how long you've been with the agency, what you do in the agency, all those types of things.
Yeah, so the agency's been around 25 years. It's our 25th year anniversary. We just celebrated actual 25 years about a month ago, which we're super excited about. Yeah, my dad started the agency. So my grandpa's been with Farm Bureau for 50 years. My dad was the weird little kid who grew up wanting to be in insurance for some reason. Now I know what that reason is now that I'm in the business, but he went to Farm Bureau in 1999. And in 2000, he decided he wanted to be independent and went to work for a gentleman who owned a bank. They were partners on an agency. He bought him out in 2004. And that's kind of when Rollo Insurance, the brand, really came around. And I joined in 2019. Whenever I joined, my dad and the team had really been building something special over the last 20 years. We were, I think, 12 offices, 60 people, just really good size organization for the independent insurance space. But we just saw what was happening in the industry. Whenever I came in, I tell people all the time, my job's to be like that crazy motor that just makes us go really, really fast. But the thing that's really cool is our leadership team average age is like 45, which is like, Carrie, you're the stats person. I think that's probably like 20 years younger than the average agency
Sure.
leadership team. And so because of that, they have experience, but they also have youth and they're excited about growth and those things. And so I tell people all the time, my job is to make us go fast. Their job is to keep us between the lines, right? And
Mm.
so that's kind of the relationship we built over the last 5 years, really, as we build a family business. So right now we're around 63 offices. That'll change here in about a week. We'll grow a little bit more and about 250 people, something like that. So just a really good organization. We decided 5 years ago, whenever I got here, we really wanted to grow and we needed to grow. We saw what was happening in the space and all the acquisitions and, the big get bigger, that kind of thing. And so we just decided that we felt like we wanted to stay completely privately owned. We want to stay family owned. And because of that, we decided to start growing, and we've been blessed with some amazing people along the way. And it's been a blessing for sure for me to be here as part of it.
So Jackson, definitely growth, and you're not talking just growth by acquisition. You're talking organic growth and growth by acquisition, I assume, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, for sure. I mean, I think a lot of it is just, any way we can, the way we look at it. I think it was O'Reilly, the auto parts store, one of the books we were reading as a leadership team, and they asked him. They said, "Hey, how many stores do you want to open? How big do you want to get?" He basically said, I really don't care. I just want to open one good store at a time." And we're kind of that way with people. Like, we just want to find one good person to add to the team at a time, whether that's in an admin department, as an account manager, as an account executive, as a producer. It doesn't matter. We're just looking to add one good person at a time. And you look up 5 years later, I know I do, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even realize how much we have grown over the last 5 years, because it wasn't this goal of going from 60 to 250. It was this goal of, let's go out and find other good people who want to make this industry what it is, which is, it's a special industry. It's a relationship based industry. Let's find people who want to live that out in their community. And it's been we've been blessed because of the people we brought on.
So
Yeah.
the magic question that I get all the time, and I'll ask you, because I mean, it is what it is, but I just got off a call and someone said, "Hey, I know you do valuations. Like, tell me, how do I find acquisitions? Tell me, how do I connect with these people and make sure that I can grow by acquisition?" And I know what my answer is when someone asks me that question, but I would love to hear your answer, because I don't know the number you do a year, but you clearly have to be doing multiple acquisitions a year, correct?
Yeah, for sure. So I think over the years we've done like something like 35 to 40. Actually, going back, my dad is, I don't think it was even intentional. His approach was just like, he would get into a community, and I mean, he's a rock star. Like, people love him, and he would
Yeah.
get in a community and he would get involved. And next thing you know, it's like this guy over here who was a competitor is coming saying, "Hey, Jason, I want you to buy me because I've watched for 5 years, and you're the kind of person that I want to take over my agency." And so that happened over and over and over across the 20 years before I got here. Since I've gotten here, we've done quite a bit. I think this year we've already done about four, and we did only two last year, but we did seven the year before that. So we try to stay balanced. We try to look, like I said before, for a good opportunity. How we find them, I think there's a couple of different ways you can approach it, but I think a lot of it has to do with when you're involved in a local community and there's other people who are around you. While they might be competition day to day in the way, for this auto policy, I think over time you're going to find people who are a character fit for you. And when you do that, there's three. I tell people all the time, there's three things in any acquisition. There's the money getting paid to the owner, which is important. There's also what's going to happen to their employees and what's going to happen to their clients. Because a lot of times, we have HEB here in Texas. A lot of times the owner is not going to leave that town, and they're going to be shopping at HEB. And what they don't want to hear is an employee come up to them or a client come up to them and say, "Why did you sell to this company?" Because they don't do it the way you did it. They're not as nice to us as you are. They don't care about us the way you did. So it's not all about number one. It's not all about the money. It's about the other three. And so I think finding people who align with you from a character perspective or from a perpetuation perspective is important. We've had carrier partners who've helped us out in this before, because again, they know us over 25 years. And so they don't send us anybody who is, not a good fit for us. They kind of know at this point who we're looking for. And so I think that's kind of the way we do it. And then, yeah, we got a couple people on our team who that's their specialty. Their specialty is finding people and then making sure they align with the Rollo values.
So I think one of the most important pieces of what you said there, because in agencies that I've talked to throughout being at events or even being at Indium, realistically, most agency owners care about their employees as number one. They care about their customers as number two, and then they care about the money number three. After that, it kind of becomes a little bit of soup of what they care about. But for the people piece, you guys are really, really values based. And I mean, even when you're talking, you're saying, we're a family agency. How are you merging those other agencies into the Rollo mold, and bringing those employees in and helping them understand the values and things like that?
Yeah. So it's not easy. I think anybody who tells you it's easy is probably making that up, because it's not. It's just not easy. I mean, you're taking people from what they were comfortable with, and you're retraining that. I think we have really three things that help us out in this, and it's the same thing I did whenever I came in. So Carrie, we were talking earlier about my story. So I came in at 22, and I took over the sales team. So I was our top producer as an intern in college, and that's why the C-suite, "Hey, why don't you come in and lead the sales team?" Because we were missing a sales director. I was like, "Okay, sounds good." But whenever I came in, I asked everybody 3 questions that are super important. And I've tried to keep these throughout my entire career. It's, what do you love about Rollo Insurance? What do you hate about Rollo Insurance? And if you were me, what would you change? And I ask that to our employees still today because they give you real honest feedback. And so I think when we take that approach to an acquisition, it's not, hey, we're coming in and changing everything because you don't know what in the world you're doing. That's why you sold to us. That's not our approach. Our approach is more, hey, tell us what works really, really well here, right? Like, what did you love about XYZ agency before it became part of Rollo? Tell us what you loved about it. And they will. Hey, what did you hate about it though? Well, this process was really, really backwards, and this carrier was harder to work with, and this technology, we're missing it. And it's like, okay, hey, perfect. So the things you love, let's keep those. And by the way, I'm going to steal 2 of those and give those to the overall agency because everybody here is going to love that, and we've never thought of that idea. And then the things that they hate, guess what? We can fix those. That's what we do, right? We built a really good system over the course of 25 years. Here's the technologies, right? Is collecting deck pages a headache? Perfect. Let me show you how we're going to fix that. Hey, is the NOC process a headache? Let me show you how we're going to fix that for you. So we go in and we show them how we're going to help them. And I think because of that, it kind of makes them want to be part of the team. And then we have these big events throughout the year. We do agency kickoffs. We do big sales competitions. We do kind of producer meetings and staff retreats. And we do all kind of things that bring people together. And then really the thing that sells them is not us, is actually the other people inside of the company who are saying, you're going to love this. Wait until October when this thing happens, or January when the kickoff is, because then they know the things that we're saying are not just made up. They're actually true. And so, it's really taking what they've done well, adopting it ourselves, and then showing them what we do well and helping them solve their problems. If people know that change is going to solve their problem, they're willing to go through with it. But if they think you're just coming in to change something because you think you're better or you know more, they don't really appreciate that very much. And so they reject it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, before we hopped on, you were giving me an idea of like what your dad's role was, what your mom's role was. And obviously I have a special place in my heart for family run businesses. Let's just say that, right? Like, I think working with Lindsay is a gift, absolutely a gift. And I'm sure you feel the same way. I'm sure your parents, I would venture to say, I don't know them, but I bet within 5 minutes of talking to them, they'd tell me the exact same thing because it is a gift. But tell me how that dynamic works, because you're this young guy, you're here to make it go. And then there's a team that's staying in the rails. And I'm assuming they're part of that team in the rails. And there's this natural push pull between, let's say, my role, which is finance and sales or revenue. So give me an idea of what that looks like inside Rollo Insurance.
Yeah, it's evolved over the years. That's the cool thing. I was telling you before, my mom has been our CFO up until last year. She'd been our CFO for 24 years. My dad is the classic entrepreneur, likes to build, doesn't care about the details, but loves the idea and the dream and the vision. So he's really good at that part. And so we've learned how to work together, I think, across time. The cool thing, I took over as president of the company in 2022. And that was kind of my, before that, I was sitting in C-suite meetings and giving advice. And I think people were like, hey, that's a cool idea. Yeah, go run with that, Jackson. But I didn't necessarily have the title to make sure that change happened. Now I've been blessed with a really good opportunity. And so now kind of the way that it works is, my dad gets to do what he wants to do in terms of being the visionary, right? He gets to think about things and see things, and he has wisdom I don't have yet because of age and time and experience. And so he sees things and he kind of, gives me some ideas. And then I love taking those and implementing them into our business. I have a little bit of both of their personalities. So I love leading our sales team. I can be gregarious, but I also have a financial and analytical piece of my brain. Actually, we did DISC assessments for all of our C-suite team. I was a IC, so I was one of the people who, whenever you read the little description about him, it was like, this person can be a psychopath because they're all people and all analytics, and those two things never mix. And I was like, okay, good. That's good. I know I get to avoid, I guess. But yeah, I mean, we found our balance now. We found out where everybody's really, really good at. And at first it's hard. And I'm sure y'all's business is going to be the same way at some point. Like, just because you do something and you've done it well doesn't mean you like to do that thing. And so what you have to do over time, and I think the only way to get there is through discussion and a little bit of healthy debate and, pushing each other to get into a spot where they're the best and then doing that because they enjoy it and they're the best at it, and trusting that the other person's going to cover the next part of that. But we're a bigger family business than just the three of us. So my little brother's in the business and his wife. My wife was in the business until we had our first 3 years ago. And then our C-suite team, they've been here 10 to 15 years on average, all of them, and they're family at this point, and their kids are getting into the business, and it's really cool for me because one of our C-suite members, his son was an intern last year in high school, and my sister's an intern this year in high school, and so we love working with family because it creates a certain level of trust. When you're looking for any employee, you're looking for trust, somebody you can trust. Well, when you have family, that's built in, right? And so because of that, you can just go farther faster because of it. And we have a lot of offices that are husband-wife duos, husband's producer, wife's account manager, vice versa. And it's just really cool to have that family environment around, the agency constantly.
Someone was asking me recently about, all right, you're like 4 or 5 months into agency focus. What's it like? And the first thing that popped into my head was, and this is not to say that this was the case at any other company I've been at, but I can throw around crazy, stupid ideas. And it's my mom. She's been listening to my crazy, stupid ideas since I first started speaking, right? Like, I don't even have to worry about being like, actually, that like came out and I heard it and that was so dumb. Like, let's just erase the tape and that never happened. Where in a company where it's not your family, they're like, sorry, you just said what? Like, no. So I also think the innovation is, the innovation
Greater.
Steep is so much greater because you're safe, right? You're allowed to say stupid things or crazy ideas, and you're allowed to dream and say, can we actually get there? Because it's your family, and you're allowed to try different things you never would before.
Absolutely. No, I think the cool thing too, and I want to hear from you guys on how y'all are handling it, but the cool thing is there's no politics in the emotion, if that makes sense.
Mm.
We read a book called Good to Great with our entire leadership team that I think really opened our perspective because, like I say this on every podcast very proudly, like we fight like cats and dogs in our board meetings. I love it personally. The more we fight, the better, because what we're doing at the end of the day, no one's playing politics. No one's saying, well, they said this, I said this. It's always trying to get to the same end result, which is something better for the company. And because of that, all of the emotion can come out, but it's not looked at through a negative lens, right? Because it's family, and that applies to our whole C-suite team. And it's just so much fun to do that. And we can get so far because of it. It does create that innovation because there's that trust there. How does that go for you? Y'all are only 4 or 5 months in, but how has that already impacted, agency focus?
Yeah, so I think the same thing. Like, I never ever, and vice versa, I don't think I ever question the motive of what's being said or the intent behind it. Like, all of that, you can skip ahead 20 spaces and just say, hey, listen, I've watched what you've built. I want to build it and I want to take it further. And here's my ideas of what that looks like. And I'm thinking about what is this going to look like in 20 years. You're thinking about where it started and how we are today. And putting those two brains together is a pretty impressive thing to do. But in my mind, it clears the deck for just honest conversation, because there's nobody in our family that doesn't want us to succeed. And I would agree with you. I would welcome being able to work with as many family members as possible, because you don't ever think like they're not just going to use it as a job, for sure. Like, it is 100% ingrained in who you are when you're working in a family business. So it's a different level of commitment, and it's a different level of trust, and it clears the deck. No question about it. And I don't know another way to say that, right, Linz?
Yeah. I definitely I'm kind of trying to convince my cousin to come join agency focus here pretty soon too. She just graduated college, and I think that would be fun. She's actually in Texas, so we'd be expanding the team to Texas. But
There you go.
no, I completely agree that it's interesting to apply the, just what you said. Here's the growth that we've had so far. And I almost think that sometimes when ideas are brought up, it's like, well, appreciate where we've gotten today. And I'm like, no, I appreciate it, but think about what else we could do. Like, we don't just stop here. We're not like, oh, we did it, we're proud. No, there's like a whole nother like 20 years, 30 years that's going to happen here. That has been really fun to explore. Like, hey, what does that look like? Because it's hard to scale a consultancy when a consultancy is your time, right? And insurance agencies have a very similar issue where, your producers, your account managers, it's time. Unless you really focus on automating, building out your processes so you can build bots or use VAs. It's tough to scale, so it's something you got to think about.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's one of the cool things about a family business is just because we're looking forward doesn't mean we don't appreciate the past,
Right.
right? Like it's kind of like a given, kind of
Yeah.
like the motive thing, right? It's just a given, and so it's really fun. But I also think there's a hard balance there, and I'm a very competitive guy, and so that's been tough for me is to figure out how to stay in the moment enough to enjoy what's happening in the present, but also looking forward. As president of the company, my job is really to set the strategic vision, with my dad and then to kind of implement it every day. So I'm living 5, 10 years in the future sometimes, but then I got to also come back to today, be thankful for today, improve the little process today. It's a balance, but it's like everything in life. The better you get at that balance and the more you understand that it's going to happen, the more you can prepare for it and enjoy it along the way.
Absolutely.
So lots of people listen to our podcast because we talk about M&A. We talk about what is that like, talk about how to prepare, how to look at your own business and make sure that it's healthy. So you have as many options as possible in front of you. But not often do people share when it doesn't go so great. Now, you guys are moving fast. You're doing a lot of different acquisitions. There have to be some that maybe didn't go as well as you thought. Like, what are some lessons learned that you can share with people, either through the vetting process or implementation or whatever, that if you haven't done this, that there's some ways that you can maybe miss some landmines that others have experienced for you. Like, I think that would be a great thing to give people who are listening to you.
Yeah, we definitely have had those over the years, and I think a lot of it comes back to just a lack of preparation, really more than anything. I think people here we've done 30 or 40, and they're like, "Oh, you must have like a button-up process." It's like, no, we're still building it, because the reality is it's always changing. I mean, this market right now is different than when we were buying 5 years ago, both in the multiplier, in the way that the acquisitions work, in the timeline that the carriers process things on, and everyone is different. And so what we've learned along the way is we actually have to have a flexible plan. What I mean by that is like the first week is really going in and diagnosing what's going to happen over the next 180 days and building that out. And so we have some team members who are that's what they do for us, and we really appreciate them, and like they're really really good at what they do. But some of the lessons that we've learned is just don't assume. I think is probably the best thing, because when you start making assumptions, that leads to a lack of preparation. Oh, well, on this one, it went this way, so it'll be the exact same. Well, that assumption could be what ends up, making everybody more frustrated for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks. And we're just learning to get ahead of everything more and more and more. And then the other hard thing is when you do as many acquisitions as we do, still as a family-based business, right? Like we have to plan on which ones we're going to do. I mean, we get more opportunities right now at more at bats than we want to swing at. And so we have to plan which ones we want to take on and make sure they're going to be worth our time, because if not, they're just going to drain a lot of resources. They're going to create income problems potentially, or cash flow problems, and just it creates all of these issues if you don't plan accordingly. And so I think the biggest lesson I've learned is don't make assumptions and plan on the front side, both in the bandwidth that's needed to perform the acquisition, but also plan on the front side around that specific acquisition. Have a flexible plan that allows you to build something custom for them. Because just like I said earlier, when you go into an office and say, hey, what's working well here? The answers are going to differ. So you can't already have a preset thing in your mind. Okay, well, here's what's going to work. Like we have processes, we have technologies, we have procedures, we have standards. Everyone will meet those. That's not an if, and, or but. Like that's going to happen. But how we influence that office to understand that that is a core part of who we are, that is the thing I think that makes us unique and special. I mean, it's change management at the end of the day. We're coming in and you can't tell, everyone's different. You can't go in and tell everybody. If you could tell salespeople how to do something one way and it would work, that would be like the golden method and everyone would do it. But it doesn't. So you have to tailor it to each producer, the way they think, what they're good at, what they're focusing on.
Sure.
Same thing with acquisitions. You have to build that. The plan's the same, but how we get there is going to be unique to that office. So you have to plan, you have to prepare, and you can't make assumptions.
Yeah, it's great advice. Absolutely. I think people do think it's rinse and repeat, and it just isn't. I mean, every single deal is different. I would also say thinking that you can go into an acquisition with this is the only way we do it, or this is the only structure, this is the only, it's good to know what's important to you. But the reality is when you meet that person, that flexibility allows you to create a win-win-win. And if it's not that, then it's not the right deal for you either. But it's not going in and saying, our rigid answer is only this. I think it's why some, larger buyers struggle to have their integration go well, because it has to be this rigid thing. And I understand why, Jackson, but you have the luxury of not having to be that way, and it creates opportunity to hit those goals, like taking care of the people, taking care of the customers in a different way that some of those other buyers sometimes fall really short on. I think
Absolutely.
flexibility is the key. Yeah.
It is. And I think the other thing, and you mentioned it too, like, is an agency financially prepared to do an acquisition? I think that's probably a pretty big question that a lot of people maybe don't know the answer to. So you got to have a good financial team, plug to you guys. If you don't have one, give them a call. They're really good at what they do. But I also think that part of it is you have to have an operation that can support it. And
that's right.
A lot of times what I've been seeing lately is agencies that are failing to acquire turn into sellers. But a lot of that has to do with they're not really running an efficient shop in the first place. So yeah, financially, it might not make sense, but honestly, operationally, it might not make sense either. If your organization doesn't have any type of culture yet, if it doesn't have processes yet, if you don't have the technologies in place to make you relevant in 2025, doing an acquisition is just going to compound your headaches. And I think that's what a lot of people see with growth is, oh, great, we're going to compound our headaches, and we don't need any more of those, right? This industry is so built by people who, it's beautiful because you build a book and then you get to play golf every day. So it's kind of built to set up a lack of growth, if that makes sense. Like you grow, and then you just plateau. And so you have to be very intentional, and that's not for everybody. And it shouldn't be for everybody, honestly. Like some people don't want to have that constant stress of the new thing or the different thing. But it's twofold. It's the financial piece and the operational piece.
Okay, so you said something earlier that I can't let pass, only because, Lindsay told you my sister lives in Texas. She's got 5 children. Her third oldest daughter is the one that has a finance background. Lindsay and her are really, really close. They look similar. Like she looks like she's my daughter. It's kind of funny. But anyway, my parents decided to go to Texas and stay with them for a couple months. And my father has since passed away. But every time he would drive by the HEB, he called it the Heb. And when you said it, it just makes me laugh. And I can't not mention it. So I hope when you drive by the HEB, you think of my dad calling it the Heb, which
I will.
It was hilarious. It makes all of us laugh. It was hilarious. So, but you're right. People want to be in their community. They want to feel proud, and they want to make sure that they're part of something and their legacy continues through who they decide to partner with. I can't hear about HEB without thinking about my dad, and this is freaking hilarious. So,
that is really funny. I will definitely do that. My daughter, they're on A&M games, and my daughter's like HEB. Like she sees them and she knows like right away. I'm like, oh man. But the funny thing is she also sees State Farm. And my dog, I have a golden doodle. They're real high maintenance, you got to get them bathed. So her dog bath is right by a State Farm office. So my daughter thinks State Farm is Bree's bath. And I love it. We'll be watching TV in the morning and she's like, Bree's bath. I'm like, that's right. Yeah, Bree's bath. That is. So
there's some things in life you don't want to change because it brings a smile to your face, right?
It does. It does.
We don't have the Heb here, but I could tell you every time I see that, that's what I think of. It's pretty funny. Anyway.
Yes, and that's the only reason I can never leave Texas, because you need the Heb. It's the tortillas are fantastic.
That's what I hear. Kroger yet. Yeah. We love Kroger. We're big Kroger fans. And when we moved to South Carolina, we don't really have Kroger here. We have Harris Teeter, which is like kind of the same but different. So yeah. I feel the alliance to the grocery store.
I will say regional grocery stores, they know what they're doing. It's kind of like local agencies, like they know what they're doing, so
they do know what they're doing. Well, Jackson, we could talk to you forever and ever. I love family businesses. I love that we're part of family business. I love your podcast that you're talking about, highlighting, all of that. So anyway, I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us about your culture, how you've managed that through acquisition. And I'm sure this will not be the last time you will be on our podcast. That's for sure.
Hey, thank y'all so much for having me, and look forward to seeing y'all in person again.